A billionaire CEO forced his black employee to marry him, but destiny made him truly fall in love. Before we start today's story, comment below where you're watching from and hit subscribe if you haven't already. You won't want to miss what's next. Alara Vance sat in front of her boss, Kalen Sterling. She was holding a coffee mug halfway to her mouth when he said something that made her freeze. "I'm sorry. What did you just say?" Alara asked, slowly putting her mug down. Her voice sounded calm, but her eyes were wide. Kalen didn't look up from his tablet. He kept scrolling like always. "You heard me, Vance. I need you to pretend to be my wife for a few days." Alara blinked. She couldn't believe it. She looked out the tall glass windows of the big office building. Far below, cars and people moved through the busy Manhattan streets, but Alara felt like the whole world had gone quiet. She looked back at Kalen. He had sharp, gray eyes that saw everything. His dark hair was neat, his suit perfect, and his face serious as always. He was rich, smart, and totally impossible. Alara leaned forward and said, "Kalen, I organize your meetings, your coffee, and your schedule. I remind you to eat food and not just drink coffee all day. But pretending to be your wife? That's crazy." Finally, Kalen looked up. His gray eyes met hers, and her stomach felt funny. For the past year, she'd been trying hard not to think about how handsome he was. "Rafiq Al-Hadid is flying in from Dubai tomorrow," Kalen said. His voice was deep and serious. "He's old-fashioned. Family means everything to him. He wants to meet my wife." Alara frowned. "And this is my problem because—" "This deal is worth $2 billion, Kalen said. "If it fails, my company loses everything." He stood up and walked to the window, staring at the tall buildings outside. "He believes in family, so I need to show him that I have one." Alara crossed her arms. "Here's an idea. Get an actual wife." Kalen's eyes flickered, just for a second, with something like sadness. "I don't have time for that," he said. "I need a wife for just 5 days. We'll attend a few dinners, a weekend trip, and some small talk. That's it. You'll just smile and pretend we're married." Alara stared at him. "You're unbelievable." But Kalen looked tired, more tired than she had ever seen. Something about his voice sounded desperate. Then he said, "I'll pay you $100,000. Alara almost dropped her mug. She caught it just in time. "What?" $100,000, Kalen repeated. "Cash, tax-free. Just pretend to be Mrs. Kalen Sterling for 5 days." Alara's heart raced. That was so much money. Thought it could pay off her student loans. It could help her sick sister. It could change her life. "Why me?" she asked softly. Kalen looked out the window again. "Because you already know the worst parts of me, and you still haven't quit." Alara didn't know what to say. She looked at his strong hands, his calm face, his expensive suit. Beneath all that confidence, there was a lonely man who didn't know how to be close to anyone. "Just pretend?" she asked. "Just pretend," Kalen said. She sighed. "Fine, but I want it in writing. A real contract." Kalen smiled a little. "Deal." They shook hands, and Alara wondered if she had just made the smartest or craziest decision of her life. At 6 in the morning, Alara sat in her small apartment in Brooklyn. Her cat, Biscuit, was sitting by the window, staring at her like she was doing something silly. She had magazines, books about manners, and open websites on her laptop with titles like "How to Act Like a Billionaire's Wife." "Don't look at me like that," she told Biscuit. "This is just business." Her phone buzzed. A message from Kalen. "Car will pick you up at 8. We're going shopping." Alara stared at the text. "Shopping? With Kalen Sterling?" she muttered. "The man who only wears black suits?" She texted back. "Shopping for what?" His reply came fast. "A wife who looks the part. Wear something forgettable." "Forgettable?" Alara said to Biscuit. "He wants me to look boring before he makes me fancy. Great." 2 hours later, a shiny black car took her to a huge store called Bergdorf Goodman. She felt out of place among all the fancy dresses and shiny jewelry. Kalen was waiting outside, looking perfect as always. The morning light made him look softer, almost nice. "You're late," he said. "It's 83, Alara said. That's not late. His lips twitched like he wanted to smile. We have 4 hours to make you look like my wife. Al-Hadid's wife wants to meet you today. 4 hours, Alara gasped. And what's wrong with how I look? Kaylin looked at her plain black dress and flats. Nothing, but Mrs. Kaylin Sterling would have different priorities. When he said Mrs. Kaylin Sterling, Alara felt her heart jump for no reason. Fine, she said quickly, but I get to approve what I wear. Deal, he said. For the next 3 hours, Alara tried on beautiful clothes, dresses made of silk, shoes soft as clouds, necklaces that sparkled like stars. The store workers were polite, calling her Mrs. Sterling, and Kaylin sat watching quietly from a big chair. Finally, she stepped out in a navy blue dress. It fit her perfectly. That one, Kaylin said. Alara turned in front of the mirror. It's beautiful, but it feels like a costume. Kaylin looked at her reflection. It is. We're both wearing costumes. Their eyes met in the mirror. For a moment, it felt like something real passed between them. Then Kaylin's phone rang, breaking the moment. Yes, he said into the phone. We'll be there in 20 minutes. He hung up. They're here. Let's go. Alara's hands shook a little. Kaylin, I can't do this. What if they find out we're faking? Kaylin stepped closer. His hands rested gently on her shoulders. Alara, he said softly, you know me better than anyone. You know my coffee, my work, my habits. If anyone can do this, it's you. She looked up at him. His face was calm, but his eyes were kind. For the first time, she saw not just the boss, but the man underneath. Okay, she whispered. But if this goes wrong, I'm blaming you. Kaylin smiled, a real smile this time. I wouldn't expect anything less. As they left the store, Alara saw their reflection in the glass window. They looked perfect together, the powerful man and his elegant wife, and strangely, it didn't feel fake at all. Soon, they were in the elevator at the fancy Four Seasons Hotel. Alara's heart beat fast as the elevator went up. Remember, Kaylin said quietly, we've been married for 2 years. We met at your old job. I asked you to dinner for 3 months before you said yes. Alara raised an eyebrow. 3 months? Why did I make you wait? Kaylin smiled a little. Because you were worth the wait. Alara's cheeks grew warm. Before she could answer, the elevator doors opened. Showtime, Kaylin whispered, placing his hand gently on her back. They walked into a big, bright room with white orchids and gold furniture. A man with silver hair stood up as they entered. He was tall, confident, and looked like someone very important. Alara quickly realized this was Mr. Al-Hadid, the man who could change both of their lives forever. Beside Kaylin stood a kind and elegant woman who looked like she came out of a fashion magazine. Her name was Soraya Al-Hadid. She was around 50 years old and had warm, friendly eyes. She moved with such grace that Alara suddenly felt a little shy and unsure of how to walk properly. Across the room, a man's cheerful voice called out. It was Kaylin Rafiq's friend, Mr. Rafiq Al-Hadid. His voice was warm, and he walked toward Kaylin with open arms. My friend, you look great. Success suits you, he said happily. Rafiq, it's always a pleasure, Kaylin replied with a big smile. They shook hands, then gave each other a friendly hug. Alara watched them, surprised at how easy and natural Kaylin seemed. He didn't look nervous at all. He looked like he belonged there. Kaylin smiled and said, I'd like you to meet my wife, Alara. And that was the big moment. Alara took a small breath, stepped forward, and smiled. She tried to look confident but friendly. Mr. Al-Hadid, it's wonderful to finally meet you, she said kindly. Kaylin talks about you often. Rafiq smiled widely and took her hand in both of his. Please, call me Rafiq, he said warmly. And this is my wife, Soraya. Soraya moved forward so gracefully that it felt like she was floating. Instead of shaking hands, she leaned in and kissed Alara on both cheeks, just like people do in Europe. Her perfume smelled soft and very expensive. Alara, Soraya said sweetly, her accent making the name sound like music. You're even more beautiful than Kaylin described, though he warned us you might be too good for him. Alara's face turned red. She felt both happy and embarrassed. She also noticed that Kalen's hand on her back tightened a little, as if saying, "I'm here." "He's being modest," Alara said quickly, looking up at him with a smile that she hoped looked full of love, not nerves. "Kalen has many hidden talents." "Does he now?" Rafik said, laughing. "This I must hear about. Come, sit down." They all sat on soft, fancy sofas. Kalen and Alara sat together, and the Al Hadids sat across from them. Kalen put his arm around Alara's shoulders like it was the most natural thing in the world. For a second, Alara almost forgot it was all pretend. Almost. "So tell me," Soraya said, leaning forward with real interest, "how did you two meet?" "Kalen is always married to his work. It must have taken something special to win his heart." Alara felt Kalen's body go a little stiff beside her. This was the question she'd been practicing for, but still, it made her heart beat fast. "I was working at a small consulting firm," Alara began, trying to sound calm. "Kalen's company was one of our clients, and I was assigned to his account. He was challenging," she added with a tiny smile. "Challenging?" Rafik chuckled. "That's a polite way to say difficult." Alara giggled softly. He had very specific rules. His coffee had to come at exactly 7:47 a.m., not 7:45, not 7:50. His meetings had to be spaced exactly 15 minutes apart, not 14, not 16. And she looked at Kalen with playful eyes. "He used to reorganize my desk when I wasn't looking." Kalen raised an eyebrow. "I was helping you optimize your workspace." "You moved my stapler 3 times in 1 week," Alara said, pretending to be annoyed. "It was blocking your natural workflow pattern," Kalen said seriously. Everyone laughed. Soraya clapped her hands happily. "Oh, this is wonderful. Kalen, you never told us you were such a control enthusiast." "I prefer the term detail-oriented," Kalen replied, pretending to sound offended, but his eyes were smiling. "At first," Alara said, "I didn't find it very charming." "At first?" Rafik teased. Alara started to relax as she continued her story. The pretend tale was mixing with some real feelings now. "He wore me down slowly," she said. "He'd bring me coffee when I worked late, saying it was only so I'd stay awake for morning meetings. But he always remembered I liked almond milk. When I was worried about my sister's health, he quietly arranged for my company to get a bonus that month." That last part was true. Kalen had done that, though she hadn't known it was him until much later. Soraya smiled softly. "And when did you know?" she asked. "When did you realize you loved him?" Alara froze. Her heart thumped. She looked at Kalen for help, but his face was calm, unreadable. She realized the answer mattered more than she expected. "It was," Alara began slowly. "It was a Tuesday evening, around 8 o'clock. I was finishing some reports. Kalen was working late too. I heard piano music coming from his office, beautiful, sad, and full of feeling. I walked closer and saw that he was playing. He didn't know anyone was listening." Alara's voice softened. "That was the first time I saw him doing something not for work, not for control, but for joy. I saw him being human." And she stopped, feeling tears sting her eyes. "And?" Soraya asked gently. Alara looked at Kalen. His gray eyes met hers, calm but full of something she couldn't name. "And I realized," she whispered, "I was in love with a man who played Chopin when he thought no one was listening." Silence filled the room. Even though it was supposed to be part of their act, it felt too real. Kalen slowly reached for her hand and held it, his fingers intertwined with hers. The touch was soft and steady, and Alara felt her heart flutter. "Chopin," Rafik said finally. "A man of hidden depths, indeed." "Very hidden," Kalen replied quietly, his thumb brushing across Alara's hand. "Alara has a way of finding things I didn't know were there." Soraya sighed happily. "This is exactly what we hope to see. Rafik, don't you think they're perfect together?" "Indeed," Rafik said warmly. "Kalen, you're a lucky man. Alara, you've clearly been good for him. I haven't seen him this relaxed in years." Alara smiled shyly. As they continued talking, she watched Kalen's face. His shoulders were relaxed, and he laughed easily at Rafik's stories. For the first time, He didn't look like a cold businessman. He looked human. And Alara realized something that scared her. The lie about falling in love didn't feel like a lie anymore. Alara stood later that evening in the big, shiny apartment, still wearing the dark blue dress that had made her look like Mrs. Kaylin Sterling for the day. The floor-to-ceiling windows showed the bright lights of New York City, glittering like stars below. Behind her, she heard Kaylin's voice. "That went well," he said carefully. Alara turned and saw him taking off his tie, but this time he didn't look so sure of himself. "Did it?" she asked, "because it felt like I just told two strangers my real feelings while pretending they were fake." Kaylin stopped moving. "The piano story," he said quietly. "Yes," Alara said, kicking off her painful high heels. "Kaylin, why didn't you ever tell me you played?" "You never asked," he said softly. "You never gave me a reason to think you wanted to know." Alara walked to the window and pressed her hand against the cool glass. 3.5 years, she said, and I thought I knew you. You do know me, Kaylin said, moving closer. You know I'm impossible to work for. You know I live on espresso and stubbornness. You know I rearrange things when I'm nervous. But I don't know that you play Chopin when you can't sleep, Alara said. I don't know what keeps you up at night. I don't know why you keep everyone at a distance. For a long time, Kaylin didn't speak. Then he did something unexpected. He sat down on the white sofa, his perfect posture finally relaxed. My father, he said slowly. He was a pianist, a real one. He played with the New York Philharmonic until I was 8. Alara's eyes widened. In all these years, Kaylin had never mentioned his family. What happened when you were 8? She asked softly. He left, Kaylin said. One day he was teaching me a song. The next day he was gone. My mom said he got a new job in Europe. I found out later he started a new life, new wife, new kids, new everything. Alara's chest hurt for him. Kaylin, the piano stayed, he said, looking down. I kept playing, thinking if I got good enough he might come back to hear me. Silly, right? You were 8, Alara said gently. That's not silly. That's love. Kaylin looked at her, and for the first time she saw the sadness behind his gray eyes. I still play sometimes, he said. Late at night when I can't sleep, or when the numbers don't make sense, or when I feel like I'm drowning. Alara smiled a little. Like last Tuesday night? Kaylin blinked. You heard me? I'm always still in the office, she said softly. Someone has to make sure you don't work yourself to death. Kaylin smiled for real this time. Alara sat on the other end of the sofa, tucking her legs under her. Will you play for me sometime? She asked. Not because you're sad, but because you want to? Kaylin stared at her for a long moment. Alara, what are we doing here? You mean besides pretending to be in love for the deal? She teased gently. I mean, he said, running a hand through his hair, this afternoon, when you told that story, you looked like you meant it. Alara's heart skipped a beat. Maybe I'm a better actress than I thought. Are you? Kaylin asked quietly. Alara felt like she was standing on a cliff, and Kaylin was asking her to jump. Then a scratching sound broke the moment, followed by a happy woof. Cooper, Kaylin said, standing up. I should let him out before he destroys the door. A golden retriever bounded into the room, tail wagging like a helicopter. He ran straight to Alara, wagging so hard his whole body wiggled. Well, hello there, handsome, Alara laughed, petting him. Aren't you sweet? He likes you, Kaylin said with a small smile. Dogs usually do. They can tell when someone's kind, Alara said. Cooper rested his head on her lap, sighing happily. How long have you had him? She asked. 2 years, Kaylin said. I found him in a shelter. He'd been returned 3 times because he was too needy. Alara looked up. Too needy? Kaylin nodded sadly. Some people don't like being needed. But you do, Alara said softly. I'm learning, Kaylin admitted. Alara smiled. That one small sentence meant more than he knew. He was learning to let people in, maybe even her. Her phone buzzed suddenly. A message from her sister. How's the fake husband? Still fake? Alara looked at the text, then at Kalen, who was watching her quietly. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Just my sister," Alara said. "Kalen, what happens after this week? After the meeting with Mr. Al-Hadid, are we supposed to keep pretending?" Kalen was silent for a long time. His face became blank again, his walls going up. "We'll figure that out when the deal is signed," he said finally. Alara nodded, but her heart felt heavy, because the truth was scarier than any deal. She wasn't sure this marriage, this pretend marriage, was fake anymore. She blinked at the bright ceiling of the guest room the next morning. It looked too perfect, too white. She sighed. Day 3 of being Mrs. Kalen Sterling. From the kitchen she could smell sizzling bacon, and Cooper's happy barking echoed through the apartment. Alara looked at her phone. It was 7:15 in the morning. That meant Kalen had already been awake for at least an hour. He never liked sleeping much. He always said sleep was like a boring meeting that he couldn't avoid forever. Alara walked to the kitchen in her soft silk pajamas, the ones Kalen had bought for her, saying she needed them. Her bare feet made no sound on the warm, shiny floor. She thought she was alone, but then she stopped suddenly. Kalen Sterling, a rich, serious man who ran a big company, was standing at the stove making pancakes. He looked very focused, like he was planning one of his big business deals. But this time he wasn't wearing a suit. He wore jeans and a gray shirt that made him look relaxed and different. Their dog Cooper sat nearby, watching carefully. His tail wagged against the cabinets as he waited for some bacon. "You cook?" Alara asked, because her brain couldn't think of anything smarter to say. Kalen turned to her, and his face softened when he saw her. "Sometimes when I need to think," he said. "What are you thinking about so early?" she asked. "The Meridian Project," Kalen said, flipping another pancake a little too fast. "Al-Hadid wants to finish the buildings faster, so I have to talk to 16 other teams about it." He turned back to the stove, then added quietly, "Also, you look." He stopped. Alara suddenly remembered she hadn't done her hair, wasn't wearing makeup, and was still in her pajamas. "Like I just woke up," she said, trying to joke. "Beautiful," Kalen said softly. The word hung in the air between them. Alara blushed. The kitchen suddenly felt very small. "Coffee's ready," Kalen said quickly. "Your usual almond milk, 1 sugar, and a little vanilla." Alara stared at him. He remembered that. She had told him about the vanilla only once, a long time ago when they worked late one night. "How long have you been paying attention to details like that?" she asked quietly. "Longer than I should have," Kalen admitted. Alara walked closer. She could smell his cologne and the pancakes. She saw the tightness in his jaw, how carefully he tried to stay calm. "Kalen," she said softly, "look at me." He turned, and when he did, she saw something new in his gray eyes, longing, confusion, and a little bit of hope. "This is getting complicated," he said. "It was always complicated," Alara whispered. "We just pretended it wasn't." She reached up and touched his face. "Isfram," he placed his hand over hers and held it there. "Alara," he said gently, "if we cross this line." "What line?" she asked. "The one where we stop pretending this is just business," he said. "I think we already crossed that line," she said, "when you told me about your father." "That's different," Kalen said quickly. "That was just what?" she asked. "Just you trusting me with your secrets? Just you letting me see the real you?" Kalen's thumb brushed over her hand. Alara's heart beat faster. "You don't understand," he whispered. "I don't do relationships. I don't do complicated. I do rules and plans." Alara smiled softly. "And pancakes at 7 in the morning because you can't sleep, and playing piano when you think no one hears you, and rescuing dogs because you understand what it's like to be left behind?" Kalen's expression broke a little. She could see the man under all his control, scared but wanting to love. "Alara," he breathed. Their eyes met. They didn't know who moved first, but suddenly they were kissing. His hands were in her hair, her arms were around his neck. It felt like they had both been holding their breath for too long. He tasted like coffee and warmth. When he pressed her back against the counter, Alara forgot why this was supposed to be pretend. Then Cooper barked loudly. They jumped apart. Kalen ran his hand through his hair, which now stuck up in funny, messy ways. "The door," he said. "Someone's here." Alara tried to fix her pajamas, pretending she looked normal. Who would come this early? Kalen checked the screen near the door. His eyes went wide. "It's Soraya, Al-Hadid's wife. She's here at 7:30. She said she wanted to meet you. I thought she meant later, when we were dressed." "Kalen, Alara, I brought pastries." Soraya's cheerful voice came through the intercom. Alara looked around the kitchen. 2 coffee mugs, pancakes, her bare feet, his jeans. They looked very much like a real married couple. "Actually," Alara said with a calm smile, "maybe this is perfect. It looks real. Breakfast together, pajamas, coffee, very married." Kalen blinked, then smiled with admiration. "You're brilliant." "I know," Alara said, grinning. "Now let her in while I save those pancakes, and next time you cook, warn me. I would have worn the pajamas with hearts." Kalen laughed, a real happy laugh, and went to open the door. Alara caught a glimpse of herself in the shiny fridge. Her hair was messy, her lips were red, and she was smiling. She looked like someone who was falling in love. "Oh, this is perfect," Soraya said as she entered, holding a fancy pastry box. "Kalen, you look relaxed, and Alara, those pajamas are lovely." "Thank you," Alara said, blushing. "Exquisite taste," Soraya said. "Kalen, I can see why you fell so hard. There's nothing like a woman who looks beautiful first thing in the morning." Kalen's eyes met Alara's again, and the air felt warm and strange. "Coffee?" Kalen asked quickly. "Alara and I were just having breakfast." "How sweet," Soraya said, sitting at the counter. "You two look so domestic." Cooper wagged his tail beside her. "And who's this handsome fellow?" Soraya asked. "Cooper," Alara said. "Kalen's best friend." "He's adorable," Soraya said with a smile. "My husband and I had a dog like him when our children were young." She took a sip of coffee. "Now, I hope you don't mind, but I came to steal Alara away for some girl time today. Shopping, lunch, maybe the spa." Alara almost choked. "Girl time?" "Yes," Soraya said cheerfully. "I hardly know any women here, and you are simply delightful. Besides, I'm sure there are things about being married to Kalen Sterling that only another woman can understand." Kalen made a strange sound, part laugh, part worry. "I'd love that," Alara said suddenly. Truth was, she needed space to think. The morning had changed everything. "Wonderful," Soraya said. "Kalen, you don't mind, do you?" "Of course not," Kalen said smoothly, but his eyes showed something softer, maybe sadness. 3 hours later, Alara sat in a fancy room full of clothes at Saks Fifth Avenue. Soraya was picking up pretty sweaters while Alara stared into space. "It's the kiss." "A kiss," Soraya said. Alara nearly dropped the dress she was holding. "What?" "The way you two looked at each other this morning," Soraya said with a smile. "I've been married for 28 years. I know the difference between new love and surprise love." Alara sat down, feeling her heart pound. "Is it that obvious?" "Only to someone who's been watching," Soraya said. "You two are close, but there's something unspoken, like you're both holding back." Alara sighed. "Sometimes marriage is complicated." "The best ones usually are," Soraya said kindly. "May I tell you something?" "Of course. My marriage was arranged," Soraya said softly. "I didn't even know Rafik well. He was serious, quiet, always talking about business. I was scared of him." Alara's eyes widened. "Scared?" "Yes. But then I got very sick, just a bad flu. He took care of me. He made soup, read to me, and stayed by my bed all night. When I woke up, he was still holding my hand." Alara's chest tightened. "That's when you knew he loved you?" "Yes," Soraya said. "And I realized I loved him too. I had just been too afraid to admit it." She looked at Alara carefully. "So tell me, what are you afraid of?" Alara swallowed hard. "I'm afraid Kalen doesn't know how to love someone, and I'm afraid I'm falling for someone who might never love me back." Soraya squeezed her hand gently. "My dear, that man made you pancakes in his pajamas. Men like Kalen Sterling don't do that for just anyone. He said cooking helps him think, Alara whispered. And what does he usually think about when he cooks? Soraya asked. Work, business, money, Alara said. But then she remembered how he had looked at her that morning and how he had called her beautiful. This morning was different, she admitted softly. Exactly, Soraya said with a smile. I've known Kalen for years. I've seen him with many women, but I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. Alara's voice was small. How does he look at me? Like your home, Soraya said. The words Alara heard made her heart feel warm inside. She thought about Kalen, how he played the piano in the dark, how he once saved a lonely dog, and how his hands had shaken when he told her about his father. El Soraya, Alara said slowly, what if someone has protected their heart for so long that they don't know how to stop? Then, El Soraya said kindly, they need someone patient enough to wait and brave enough to love them anyway. El Soraya smiled in a soft, knowing way. The question is, Alara, are you that someone? Just then, Alara's phone buzzed. It was a text from Kalen. Kalen, how's the shopping? Has El Soraya bought the whole store yet? Alara smiled a little. She could tell Kalen was pretending to sound calm, but she knew he was probably pacing in his office, worrying if she was okay, if she was having second thoughts about their kiss. Alara, not yet, but the day is young. How's Cooper? Missing you, both of us are. Alara's heart fluttered, both of us are. It sounded like he had said something he didn't mean to say out loud. That's your answer, El Soraya said, peeking over Alara's shoulder. A man who admits he misses you after only 3 hours is already halfway to loving you. Alara looked up at El Soraya, this elegant woman who had somehow become her friend in just one morning. What if I'm wrong? Alara asked softly, what if I'm just imagining things? Then your heart will break, El Soraya said, standing and smoothing her skirt. But it will break for someone worth the risk. And, Alara, darling, I don't think you're wrong. I think you're just scared. Alara rode the elevator up to Kalen's apartment, practicing what she wanted to say. She had planned to tell him that their kiss changed everything, that she was tired of pretending her feelings were fake. But when Kalen opened the door, her words disappeared. He looked tired. His tie was gone, his sleeves rolled up, his hair messy like he'd been running his hands through it all day. But it was his eyes, soft, uncertain, that made her breath stop. Hey, he said gently. How was your day with El Soraya? Educational, Alara said, putting her shopping bags down. Cooper, the dog, came running, tail wagging happily like she'd been gone for weeks. How was your day of missing me? She teased. Kalen froze. You saw that text. I saw that text, Alara said, kneeling to pet Cooper. She took a deep breath. Kalen, we need to talk about this morning. Kalen ran a hand through his hair. This morning was a mistake. I shouldn't have. Don't, Alara said quickly, sharper than she meant. Don't you dare call it a mistake. Kalen looked surprised, but she kept going. I spent the day with El Soraya, Alara said. She talked about love and taking risks, and I realized something. I've been just as scared as you. Kalen's eyes were fixed on her. What did you realize? That I've been hiding behind this fake marriage, Alara said, her voice trembling. It was easier than admitting the truth, that I've been falling in love with you for 3.5 years. She stepped closer. One deadline, one coffee delivery at a time. I fell for the man who remembers I like almond milk, who stays up late to get things right, who rescued a dog because he knows what it feels like to be unwanted. Kalen's face showed shock, then hope, then fear, and finally something like relief. Alara, you don't understand. I do, she said softly. You're scared. Your dad left, so you think love means losing people. You think control is safer than feelings. But Kalen, why are you fighting something that could make us both happy? Kalen stared at her, eyes full of emotion. Because I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be someone's husband. I don't know how to let someone close without ruining everything. Alara's voice softened. Do you want to learn? The question hung in the air. Then Kaylin whispered, "Yes, God, yes. But what if I hurt you?" Alara gently placed her hands on his face. "Kaylin, you've been caring for me for years. You already know how to love. You just didn't know that's what you were doing." Kaylin covered her hands with his own. "Alara, tell me what you want. No masks, no pretending." Alara looked into his eyes. "I want you," she whispered. He closed his eyes, and when he opened them, she saw it. "Love. I want you too," he said. "Not for a week or for show. I want you every morning arguing about coffee. I want you stealing my bacon and laughing with Cooper. I want you reminding me that there's more to life than money." Alara felt tears in her eyes. "And I want to play piano for you at midnight, make you breakfast, and fall asleep knowing you'll be there when I wake up." Kaylin smiled softly. "I want to deserve you, Alara. You make me feel like I'm home." Alara's heart broke open. "You are home," she whispered. "You've been home for years." Then Kaylin kissed her, not soft or careful like before, but full of all the love they had hidden for so long. Later, Alara woke in his bed, wearing one of his shirts. Cooper was asleep on their feet. The morning light filled the room. Her phone buzzed. A text from her sister, Jenna. "Jenna, so how's the fake husband? Still fake?" Alara smiled at Kaylin's peaceful face. He looked younger, softer, truly happy. "Not fake anymore. It's complicated." "What? Call me now." Alara was about to reply when Kaylin stirred beside her. His arm tightened around her waist. "Morning," he said sleepily. "You're awake late," Alara teased. He smiled. "I slept better than I have in years." Alara turned toward him. "Kaylin, what happens now?" He brushed her cheek gently. "Now we figure out how to do this for real." Just then, Kaylin's phone rang. His CEO voice came back fast. "What? When? How bad is it? I'll be there in 20 minutes." Alara watched as the soft, loving Kaylin turned back into the busy businessman. "I have to go," he said quickly. "There's a problem with the project." "Go," Alara said kindly. "Handle it." He paused. "Alara, about last night." "Don't," she said, her heart jumping. "Don't make it sound like something to regret." "I'm not," Kaylin said, sitting beside her. He held her hand. "It's just, this is new for me, having someone who matters more than work. It scares me." Alara smiled softly. "Kaylin, I've handled your impossible rules for 3.5 years. You really think one little work problem will scare me away?" Kaylin's eyes filled with emotion. "I love you." "I love you too," Alara said, kissing him. "Now go save your company. I'll be here with coffee and maybe burnt breakfast." Kaylin kissed her again and left. Alara sat in his room, staring at her reflection. She felt happy and scared. Loving Kaylin from far away had been easy. Loving him for real, with all his problems and busy life, would be harder. Her phone rang. It was Jenna. "Okay," Jenna said. "Tell me everything. Don't skip anything. Did you sleep with your fake husband?" Alara smiled softly. "He's not fake anymore, Jenna," she said. "He proposed. For real." "What? And you said?" "Yes," Alara said, tears in her eyes. "I said yes." The phone was quiet for so long that Alara thought the call had ended. "Jenna?" she said softly. Jenna's voice came at last. "Alara, Catherine Vance, are you telling me you fell in love with your billionaire boss during a fake marriage?" "I didn't fall in love with him during the fake marriage," Alara said quickly. "I fell in love with him 3.5 years ago. The fake marriage just made me finally admit it." "And he loves you back?" Jenna asked. Alara thought about how Kaylin had looked at her that morning, like she was something special and rare. "Yes," she whispered. "I think he does." "You think?" Jenna said. Alara smiled. "Okay, I know he does. But Jenna, what if I'm not enough? What if being with someone like Kaylin is too hard?" Jenna's voice became kind but firm. "Alara, you've been taking care of that man's life for over 3 years. You've seen him when he was angry, tired, and impossible, and you stayed. If that's not love, I don't know what is." Alara felt tears fill her eyes. "But what if it's different now? What if things change? What if you stop worrying and just be happy?" Jenna said gently. "Alara, you've loved this man for years. Now he finally knows he loves you too. Stop finding problems and start planning your wedding. Ilara laughed. We just got engaged 12 hours ago. Knowing Kalen, he probably already has a plan and a budget spreadsheet. Just then, Ilara's phone buzzed. It was a text from Kalen. The permit issue is fixed. Al Hadid wants to have dinner tonight to celebrate. Both couples wear the blue dress from yesterday. I love you. Warmth filled Ilara's heart. Even when busy, Kalen still thought about her. She smiled and typed back, I love you too. Handle your business. I'll handle the dress. As she hung up and planned her day, her dog Cooper watched her with bright eyes. Ilara realized something that made her smile. For the first time in 3.5 years, she wasn't managing Kalen Sterling's life. That night, Ilara stood in front of the mirror wearing the blue dress. She looked pretty but nervous. This dinner was supposed to be a small celebration with Mr. and Mrs. Al-Mansouri, but it felt like a big test. Kalen came out of his closet, fixing his sleeves. He looked perfect as always. Charcoal suit, silver tie, hair neat, but his shoulders were tight with stress. You look beautiful, he said, meeting her eyes in the mirror. Thank you, Ilara said, turning toward him. Are you okay, Kalen? You seem... I'm fine, he said quickly, like he was talking to his office team. We should go. The car is waiting. Something heavy filled Ilara's heart. He looked distant again, like the man she used to work for, not the one she was engaged to. In the car, Ilara sat beside him, but it felt like a wall stood between them. Kalen was on the phone, talking about work and tapping his fingers nervously. Ilara looked out the window and wondered, was this how life would always be now? Kalen hiding behind work whenever things got real? The restaurant was fancy, the kind that didn't even need a sign. Mr. Rafiq and Mrs. Soraya Al-Mansouri were waiting at their table. Soraya smiled warmly and hugged Ilara. Ilara, darling, you look glowing. Marriage suits you, Soraya said kindly. If only she knew, Ilara thought sadly. Congratulations, Rafiq said to Kalen. The Meridian project is a success. Your team did great. Thank you, Kalen said, smiling his CEO smile. As they sat down, Ilara noticed Kalen turning slightly away from her, focusing completely on business talk. He laughed with the Al-Mansouris, looked confident, and acted like she was just another coworker. Ilara smiled politely, trying to keep up, but inside she felt invisible. Then Soraya turned to her. Ilara, Kalen tells us you're thinking about changing your job now that you're married. How exciting! Ilara froze. I'm sorry? Kalen's body stiffened beside her. Soraya, there might be some misunderstanding, he said. Oh, but you mentioned that Ilara might step back from her role to focus on your life together, Soraya said sweetly. I think it's wonderful when couples support each other. Ilara looked at Kalen, feeling shock and hurt. Kalen, she said softly, what career changes? Ilara, we can talk about this later, Kalen said under his breath. We can talk about it now, Ilara replied firmly. What did you tell them? The table went silent. Kalen's jaw tightened. I may have mentioned that your job might not be sustainable with our new situation. Sustainable? Ilara repeated. Why wouldn't it be? Because you're my wife now, Kalen said, trying to stay calm. Having you as my assistant creates problems, HR issues, conflicts of interest. Ilara felt like the world was spinning. So you already decided I should quit my job? I didn't decide anything, Kalen said. I said we might look at other options. Without talking to me first? Ilara said sharply. Ilara, be reasonable, he said. You can't expect things to stay the same. Actually, that's exactly what I expected, Ilara said, her voice shaking. Because my job isn't just a job, Kalen. It's my dream. It's who I am. You're my wife now, he said. That's who you are. The words hit her like a slap. Ilara stood up. Excuse me, she whispered. I need some air. Kalen followed her to the foyer. Ilara, wait, he said, grabbing her wrist. Don't touch me, she said, pulling away. Don't you dare touch me right now. People were staring, pretending not to. Can we talk about this at home? Kalen said tightly. Home? Ilara laughed sadly. I don't even know what that means anymore. Ilara, you're being dramatic, he said. I'm being dramatic, she said, voice cracking. You just told people I might quit my job without telling me. You treated me like an accessory, not a partner, and then you said being your wife is who I am now, as if my life before doesn't matter. That's not what I meant, Kaylin said quickly. Then what did you mean? Alara said, stepping closer. Because it feels like you think loving me means controlling me. Kaylin looked hurt. I would never... Wouldn't you? She whispered. Your father left you, Kaylin. So now you don't trust anyone to stay. Instead of healing, you try to control people so they can't leave. You make me dependent, so I have nowhere to go. Kaylin's face went pale. That's not true, isn't it? Alara asked softly. Because it feels like you don't want a wife. You want someone who exists only for you. And I can't be that person. Silence. Kaylin's world seemed to crumble. So what are you saying? He asked. I'm saying, Alara whispered, tears in her eyes, I need time to find out if the man I love is real or if he was just a dream. She turned and walked away, leaving Kaylin alone in the restaurant full of whispers and broken dreams. 5 days passed. 5 long days since Alara had left. 5 days since she moved back to her small apartment in Brooklyn Heights. 5 days since she ignored Kaylin's calls. Kaylin sat in his office, his dog Cooper waiting at the door, confused. His temporary assistant peeked in nervously. Sir, Miss Al-Mansouri is here to see you. Kaylin frowned. Miss Al-Mansouri flew back to Dubai. Not Mrs. Al-Mansouri, sir. Miss Laya Al-Mansouri, she says you need a friend. Before Kaylin could answer, Soraya Al-Mansouri walked in gracefully and sat down across from him. Kaylin, darling, she said, you look terrible. Thank you, Kaylin said dryly. It's always nice to see you too. Where is Alara? Soraya asked softly. Kaylin's heart ached. We're taking time apart. And how is that working for you? Soraya asked, looking around his messy office full of coffee cups and unread papers. Perfectly, Kaylin said with a tired smile. Soraya gave him a kind but serious look. Kaylin, what did you do? He sighed. Why do you think I did something? Because 5 days ago, I saw how you looked at that woman like she was your whole world. Then I saw how you treated her like she was your property. Kaylin's chest tightened. I was trying to protect her. From what? Soraya asked. From making a mistake. From choosing me over her dreams. From... He stopped, his voice breaking. From leaving you, Soraya finished softly. Kaylin clenched his fists. My father left me and my mom for a better life. I can't let Alara do that. I can't let her give up everything for me and regret it later. So instead, you made the choice for her, Soraya said quietly. I was trying to be realistic, Kaylin muttered. No, Soraya said gently. You were trying to control the situation so you wouldn't get hurt. She leaned forward. Kaylin, do you know what the difference is between your father and Alara? Kaylin shook his head. He didn't trust his voice to speak. Your father left because he was selfish, Soraya said softly. He wanted something more fun and exciting than the life he had. Soraya leaned forward, her dark eyes serious. Alara has been choosing you every single day for 3.5 years, Kaylin, even when you gave her reasons to leave. She's not like your father. She's the woman who sees the good in you and loves you anyway. Kaylin closed his eyes. He could still hear Alara's words from that sad night. I fell in love with you even though you always want to control everything, she had said. She left, Kaylin whispered sadly. No, Soraya said, standing up and smoothing her skirt. She didn't leave, Kaylin. She's just protecting herself from a man who was trying to erase who she is. That woman loves you, but she loves herself too, and that makes her strong. The question is, are you worthy of her? After Soraya left, Kaylin sat alone in his office. The sun was setting over the tall buildings of Manhattan. Soraya's words kept echoing in his mind. Are you worthy of her? The honest answer was no, not yet. But maybe if he worked hard and changed, if he showed Alara he could love her without trying to control her, maybe he could become worthy. Kaylin picked up his phone and did something he had never done in 15 years of running his big company. Sterling Enterprises. He called his lawyer and told him to cancel all meetings for the rest of the week. Alara was sitting in her kitchen eating ice cream straight from the container. Her dog, Biscuit, was sitting on the counter watching her like she had done something silly. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. It wasn't a loud or rude knock. It was 3 soft knocks, careful, gentle, almost like an apology. Alara's heart started beating fast. She looked through the peephole. It was Kalen. He looked different. His hair was messy, his tie loose, and he was holding a man, Soraya folder in one hand and a cup of coffee in the other. Alara opened the door but didn't invite him in. "Kalen," she said. "Alara," he replied, looking at her face carefully like he wanted to remember every detail. "You look tired," he said softly. "You look like I've been eating ice cream for breakfast," Alara replied, folding her arms. "Beautiful," Kalen said quietly. "You look beautiful." Alara's heart skipped a beat, but she tried to stay calm. "What are you doing here, Kalen?" "I brought you coffee," he said, holding out the cup. "Almond milk, 1 sugar, and a shot of vanilla. From that coffee shop in Brooklyn Heights, the one with the bad music and the barista who flirts with everyone." Alara's mouth twitched into a small smile. "Dante doesn't flirt with everyone, just with people who tip well." "I tipped very well," Kalen said seriously. Alara took the coffee, and their fingers brushed for just a moment. That tiny touch made her feel a spark, and she noticed Kalen's breath catch. "Thank you," she said, "but if you came here to—" "I came here to apologize," Kalen said, interrupting her, "and to give you this." He handed her the folder. It looked like an important document full of long, confusing words. "What is this?" she asked. "It's a contract," Kalen said. "It offers you the position of Creative Director of Strategic Development at Sterling Enterprises." Alara's eyes went wide. "What?" "It's a new job," Kalen explained. "You'd lead creative projects, working with designers, architects, and community teams. You'd have your own department, budget, and team. The pay is triple what you earned as my assistant, and you'll get full benefits and company shares." Alara blinked. "I don't understand." "The position reports to the board of directors, not to me," Kalen said quickly. "Your job won't depend on me or our relationship." Alara looked at him carefully. His eyes looked soft, full of emotion. "Kalen," she said. "Alara, you were right about everything," he said, his voice shaking a little. "I tried to control you because I was scared. I was scared of becoming my father. I didn't want you to leave, so I tried to make you stay. But I see now, I should have been the kind of man you wanted to stay with, not one who forced you to." Tears filled Alara's eyes. "Kalen, I love you," Kalen said, stepping closer. "I love your independence, your strength, your honesty. I don't want you to be Mrs. Kalen Sterling, the perfect wife. I want you to be Alara Vance, the woman who challenges me and makes me better." Alara's hands shook. "This job, it's everything I've dreamed of." "I know," Kalen said softly. "And even if you never take me back, the job is still yours. You earned it. You're brilliant. I should have done this long ago." Alara looked down at the paper, then up at him. "What if I take the job and we break up? What if I have to see you every day?" Kalen smiled gently. "Then we'll be 2 people who loved each other once and can still work together. I'd rather see you happy, even if it's hard for me." Alara's heart melted. "You really mean that?" "I really do." He reached out, slowly touching her face. "I can't promise to be perfect, but I can promise I'll never try to make you smaller just to make myself feel bigger." Alara looked into his eyes and saw honesty there. Real, brave, scary honesty. "Kalen Sterling," she whispered. "Are you asking me to marry you again?" "I'm asking you to build a life with me," he said, "as equals, as partners, as 2 people who choose each other every day." Alara's answer was a kiss, soft, full of forgiveness and hope. When they pulled apart, both breathing hard, Alara smiled through her tears. "So," she said, "when do I start my new job?" Kalen laughed, full of joy. "Tomorrow, if you want. But first—" He knelt down on one knee and pulled out a small box. "Alara Vance, will you marry me?" Not for business, not for looks, but because I love you and want to prove I'm worthy of you." Alara gasped, her eyes shining. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, you wonderful, impossible man. Yes." As Kaylin slipped the ring on her finger, Alara realized Soraya had been right. Love was about choosing each other. 18 months later, Alara woke up to the sound of piano music. It wasn't sad like before, it was light and happy. She smiled before opening her eyes. The clock said 6:30 a.m. Her big dog, Cooper, lifted his head from the foot of the bed and wagged his tail sleepily. "Come on, boy," Alara whispered. "Let's see what your dad's doing." She found Kaylin sitting at his piano in their beautiful apartment. His hair was messy, he wore only pajama pants, and a coffee mug sat forgotten on the piano. Papers were spread around him, drawings and plans for a new children's hospital project. "Kaylin Sterling," Alara said, leaning against the door frame. "Are you working on my project at 6:30 on a Saturday?" Kaylin turned and smiled. "Good morning to you too, Mrs. Sterling. I wasn't working. I was writing a theme song for your project." "A theme song?" Alara laughed. "Every great building needs music," Kaylin said seriously. "Something hopeful and inspiring, like its creative director." Alara giggled and hugged him. "You're ridiculous." "I'm inspired," he said, kissing her temple. "Do you know what today is?" "Saturday?" Alara teased. "It's the 1-year anniversary of the day you told the board their design looked like a boring gray box." "I was polite," she said, laughing. "It was magnificent," Kaylin said, grinning. "I've never been more attracted to you." "Considering we're married, that's saying something," Alara said. Speaking of which, Kaylin pulled out a small velvet box from his pocket. "Kaylin, we're already married." "I know," he said, smiling, "but we never got you a proper wedding band." He showed her a ring with tiny diamonds that sparkled in the morning light. "Kaylin, you didn't have to." "I wanted to," he said gently. "This past year and a half has been amazing. Watching you grow, lead, and build something beautiful, it makes me so proud. I wanted you to have something that shows how lucky I feel to be married to you." He slipped the new ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. "Cooper helped me pick it out," Kaylin said playfully. Right then, Cooper wagged his tail happily, hoping for breakfast. Alara laughed through her tears. "It's perfect," she said softly. "Do you know the best part of being married to you?" "My good looks?" Kaylin teased. "Your humility," Alara joked, kissing him. "No, it's that you play the piano at 6 a.m. and fill our home with music instead of stress." Kaylin smiled. "Always yours, Alara?" "Even when you're being impossible," she said. "That's when I know you trust me most." They stood together in the soft morning light, their home warm and full of love. Cooper curled up at their feet. "Kaylin," Alara whispered, "play me our song." "We don't have a song," he said. "We do now," she smiled. "Play me something that sounds like home." Kaylin sat at the piano and began to play. The music was gentle, full of warmth and hope, just like their love. Alara closed her eyes and listened. The sound filled the room, soft and strong. Cooper sighed happily beside them. The sunlight painted everything golden, and Alara Sterling realized this was what happiness sounded like. Not loud or dramatic, but calm, steady, and full of love. Because real love isn't about control or fear, it's about supporting each other's dreams and trusting that you'll both keep choosing each other every single day.